Hello and welcome to episode 126 of the Vegan Business Tribe podcast with myself, David Purnell. And Vegan Business Tribe is here to support you and to inspire you, not just to build a vegan business, but to build a successful vegan business. And you can listen along on Spotify, on Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. So you can also watch the video version on YouTube too. And thank you, as always, to our amazing sponsors who are Vegan Accountants and Mad Promotions. Do go check them out to help them keep sponsoring what we do. Now, if you caught the last episode, then you will know that I am currently going through the ProVeg Kickstarting For Good business incubator. And I'm taking you on the journey with me by recording a video diary of my experience as I go through the program, just so that you can learn what I'm learning. But if you want to see the video versions of these diaries, or you just can't wait for the next Omnibus episode, then go check out our YouTube channel or our Vegan Business Academy on the Vegan Business Tribe website, which is veganbusinesstribe.com. And there you'll be able to see them as I record them and as I post them. So let's have a quick catch up. So in the previous Omnibus edition, I took you from first hearing that we got a place on the incubator to about halfway through what they call the pre-program, which is all the work that we're set and need to complete before we go to Berlin for the in-person part. And although I'm sure that you'll still find it interesting if you start here, if you didn't catch the last podcast or you've not been keeping up to date with the video diaries, maybe just jump back to episode 125 and listen to that first to bring you up to date, and then come back and follow on with this one next. Okay, so we ended the last Omnibus with me realising that maybe I've been trying to solve the wrong problem over the past 4 years with Vegan Business Tribe, which isn't something that you ever want to admit when you've got a business. And I also gave a few examples of some of our Vegan Business Tribe members who I think are making a real impact with their business. So now we're going to finish off the work for the pre-program in the build-up to the first in-person week in Berlin. And I'll also add that I've been making these video diaries on the go. You know, sometimes I've been in the car, sometimes on the train. So the audio, it is different from episode to episode, but don't let that put you off. It's all still really good stuff. Okay, so let's jump into part 2 of the pre-program. Now, it is very early in the morning, so I need to keep my voice down a little bit because I've got Lisa and Arwen sleeping in the bedroom across the corridor from me. And it's so early in the morning because I've just had my first catch-up call with my tutor, mentor, I don't know quite what to call Sebastian, for the incubator. And now we're in week 2. We are doing weekly catch-up calls to make sure we're getting through the work that we've been set. And it's very early in the morning because Europe is slightly an hour ahead. But I get up very early anyway. I do tend to get up between sort of 4 and 5 at the moment. And before you think that's me just being that kind of, you know, get up at 5, spend an hour in the gym, cold shower kind of entrepreneur, which I'm not. I'm not that kind of guy at all. It's simply because we have our young daughter, Arwen, and we all sleep together in the same bed. So Arwen is only 1 year old. And so we all tend to go to bed about 7:30, 8 o'clock. I am genuinely usually asleep by 9 o'clock, which means I naturally wake up 7 hours later at kind of 4 or 5 o'clock. So I like to put those hours to good use. And so because there was options of booking in some early calls on this, you know, that's why I chose to take that. But I've just finished, you don't need to know all this about my personal life, but I've just finished the call with Sebastian Joy, who set up the Kickstarting For Good incubator. And it's been a fascinating call. I've just turned the camera back on, so I'm back in the studio talking about it. And it's interesting because I didn't fully appreciate that they were actually going to go through all the submissions I've made. So a lot of it is reading and then coming back with your observations on what you've just read. It's outlining your plan a little bit better. It's looking at who else in this sector is doing similar works to you. So there's a bit of research doing things like that. But Sebastian had gone through and read everything that I'd submitted and made his own comments in there and added some extra insight and things like that. So that was quite exciting to get that sort of feedback straight away on what we're doing with Vegan Business Tribe. And one thing it's doing, and especially just having that kind of 15-20 minute catch up with Sebastian, is it's helping me think bigger. And this is a problem that a lot of us have as business owners. And I always say, when you surround yourself with other people who are on the same mission as you are, that helps you grow your business so much faster. And so if you're around people who have already done some very big enterprises, and if you look at what Sebastian Joy from ProVeg has done, well, first of all, he helped set up ProVeg, which is an absolutely massive global organisation. But he brings that sort of thinking to it, of just always thinking that one step bigger and that one step larger as well. And it's this idea that I've used before in business, and they call it the local maxima. And the idea is, imagine if you climb a mountain. From the top of that mountain, you might think, oh, great, I've reached my peak. I've gone as high as I can go. But once you're at the top of the mountain, you might spot another mountain that you didn't see before you got to the top. And so if you go climb that mountain, you might then see this whole other range of mountains around you with even higher peaks, but you didn't even know that they were there because you weren't high enough. You weren't thinking big enough. So that's what this sort of process is really helping me do. It's bringing me back always to that idea of why. What are we doing and how can we have the biggest impact doing it? Because, the advice that we give, it's relevant to any vegan who's in business, but where it may have the bigger impact is maybe some of those people that don't have that access to business support. And if you look at, regions of Africa, of Southeast Asia, these are sort of maybe the less developed marketplaces that don't have as much business support as we do in the UK, in North America. And what we're doing is very relevant to those places too. So just being prompted to think about that is incredibly useful as well. I mean, we might be able to offer what we do maybe with funded places. If we can get people to actually sponsor businesses in places like Rwanda, and we've got one of our Vegan Business Tribe members who's got just that at the moment, maybe doing more of that will actually allow us to have an even bigger impact in places that don't have that support in place. So having those conversations is really interesting as well. And another thing which going through this incubator process is giving me is it's linking me up to more people who are on the same mission. So there is somebody else on the incubator as well, I think I mentioned earlier. And they're already running an organisation supporting vegan businesses in Europe, but they're doing it face-to-face, doing local face-to-face hub meetups. Now, that's something that we've often talked about doing at Vegan Business Tribe. In fact, when we first launched Vegan Business Tribe, that was the idea, that we would go almost on a tour, city by city, and do meetups and do events, because that was my background. In my last agency, we did a lot of business and B2B events. We helped companies with it. We organised a few. And networking, I've run my own networking groups. I've facilitated things like BNI and things like that as well. So that's a skill set that I've got for doing in-person meetups and in-person support. And that's what we were going to do at Vegan Business Tribe. But when we were just setting it up, that's when the global pandemic hit. And so we couldn't do that face-to-face work. And so we went online. And by doing that, we actually found a bigger audience. So that's why we kept doing it. But coming back to this idea of, yes, we should be bringing together vegans who are based maybe in Essex, and vegans who are based in London, and then vegans who are based in Berlin and Amsterdam, to give them their own local Vegan Business Tribe hub. And they'll probably get a lot more value out of that than just being part of the online stuff. So that might be maybe a bolt-on to what we do. It may be a way to grow what we do into new areas, finding local people to help us, and maybe translate some of our content and things like that as well. So that's been, really interesting thing to do as well. Did my voice get a little bit loud there? I hope I've not woken babies. So I've been sent off to do my week 2's worth of work now, and we're halfway through the week, and I've only done one module, so I'm going to play a little bit catch up this week. It's probably going to be another weekend and evenings working through it all. But going through this incubator, it's really It's a really interesting process because I think a lot of the things that I'm learning and being told, it's not necessarily new to me. And that was one of my fears about going through the incubator. You know, I am quite an experienced business person. But what it's doing is it's kind of reflecting a lot of things back to me. Because with any business, with your business, you know, sometimes you spend so much time working in the business that you lose sight of actually what you're building, that you're not just being an employee, you're actually trying to lead a business forwards as well. And I've always thought that I've been quite good at that. You know, I always put half a day a week aside to go sit in a coffee shop, go through my notes, work about what we should be doing next with Vegan Business Tribe, what I should be moving forwards. But to actually get this larger shift and this larger kind of growth, it really helps to have other people on board. It really helps to get somebody else to sit down with you, look at your plans and say, but what about this? And it's that thing which is already staring you in the face and you already know that you should have been doing, but sometimes it just takes other people looking at what you're doing, throwing their opinion in, giving you ideas, and especially people who have done something similar and grown something to a point larger than what you've grown. That's really, really useful. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest things that I get out of this incubator process. Right, so we are partway through week 2. 10-week incubator, about 4 weeks left, 3 weeks left, 4 weeks left until we fly out to the first in-person part of this in Berlin. I've got my flights booked. I've got my travel booked. Got the hotels booked. So that's all going to be something to look forward to. If you are in Berlin, let me know and maybe we can link up. Right, let's get back to it. Today has been a long day, so it's the same day as my entry that I made this morning, and I was up very early. I think my alarm was set for 4:30 this morning, and then had my catch-up meeting with my ProVeg mentor, which was absolutely brilliant, and it's now 9:30 at night, and I've spent the evening in this place behind me. That is my local Starbucks, which is where I come and tend to use as my kind of office away from home quite often. And the staff have just kicked me out because they are closing. You might be able to see them cleaning up behind me perhaps. But the reason is it's just kind of creating the hours to do the incubator. And working through all the tasks, this evening I've done quite a few interesting things. We had one bit of mammoth reading to do, of course, literature, which was the Social Impact Navigator Guide. And we were given 50 pages from that to read and then to write a response to what we'd learned about how to build logic models for our project and many other interesting things like stakeholder engagement and getting people on board with your mission and things like that. So lots of really good, useful things. But another of the exercises that I've just done this evening that I wanted to make a quick comment on was the idea about finding co-founders for what you're doing as a business. And now I thought this was really worthwhile just having a quick conversation about with you, because the statistics show that if you start a business with somebody else, you are far more likely to succeed and you are far more likely to have a successful business. And the maths is simple. If you've got 2 people as co-founders of a business, you can get through twice as much. If you've got 3 people, you can get through 3 times as much. If you've got 4 people, and it just, goes on and on and on. And that's quite interesting. Because the stats back that up, and I think it was Y Combinator that I was looking at. Out of their top 100 companies who have gone through Y Combinator and got funded and become successful, out of their top 100, I think they said something like only 3 or 4 were solo founders. All the others were groups of co-founders working together to make that successful business. And that's something that's not that easy to ignore, especially if you are a solopreneur, especially if you are building a business on your own. The idea that if you were to link up with somebody else to build that business with you, you would be far more likely to succeed and probably succeed a lot quicker as well. So that's something that I was working through today as an exercise, kind of thinking about if we were to bring somebody else on board to build Vegan Business Tribe with us, or whatever is going to come out of his incubator, what kind of traits that person would need for me to get along with them and for that to be a good fit. And I think, well, today's sort of illustrating it, I do come from a previous career where working 80 hours a week wasn't unheard of, sometimes even working 100 hours a week, under certain circumstances, was something I used to do. And so that whole idea that if somebody else was to work on a project with me, they'd have to be able to match or get close to those kind of energy levels and that kind of commitment to put the hours into working on something. I mean, just working 9 to 5, 7 days, 7 hours a day, that feels very part-time to me, and I'd probably struggle if I was working with somebody else who thought that that was full-time. So that was quite an interesting takeaway to have as well. But also this idea about tenacity, and positivity. They're the things which I really value in business. So if I was going to find somebody else, I don't think it'd be necessarily about finding somebody with complementary skill sets to myself. So someone who's good at the things that I'm not that good at, and vice versa. I think it would just be finding somebody who could match my level of energy in building a business. So if I was going to bring somebody in, or if I was going to look to collab with somebody or something like that, that would be what's most important to me as a business. So I thought that'd be worth you maybe just thinking about that for your own business. If you are struggling to get things done, if you're struggling to move a business forward, could you actually find somebody to collaborate with and come in as your co-founder to your business? Because the stats, they really do show that you'll have far more of a chance of building a successful business that way. Right, I think Lisa's wondering where I am. She'll be in bed. My daughter Arwen will definitely have been in bed for a few hours now, so I'm going to quickly head back home. But yeah, a very long day, but a very productive one too. It is week 3 of the incubator, and I've not recorded one of these diary entries for a couple of days because we have been so busy. I think I mentioned in my other diary entries just the amount of work that you go through when you're going through one of these incubators. Well, if it's a good one, I'm presuming. We are still what they're calling pre-program. We haven't gone out to Berlin yet, but we're still expected to complete at least 10 hours a week worth of tasks. I'm probably doing more like 15, 20 because I'm really going in depth on some of the tasks we're being given as well. And that's time that you've just got to find. I mean, most of us are running businesses, or we've got jobs, we've got other things going on in our life, but we've got to find that time to actually do the tasks for the incubator. But we're entrepreneurs. We know that is part of the deal sometimes, putting in those hours. So what I want to do today was just go through one task that I found extremely useful, and I think you might find useful using it in your business too. So let me just quickly share my screen with you. 1 second. So there we go. So what you're looking at here is Notion. And you might have used Notion yourself. It's just a platform for task management, for project management. It's for productivity. You can use it for notes. You can use it for lots of different things. But this is the platform that they're using for the ProVeg Kickstarting For Good incubator. And if I go into my task list here, we'll see lots of done tasks, nice and green. That's great because I've been trying to keep on top of it all and get the work done. But then I'll go down to the tasks that I've not started yet, the tasks from this week. But one thing I wanted to share with you today was this task called role model analysis. Now, in business, this is something that I've done myself for my previous businesses. It's this whole idea that you do not need to reinvent the wheel, no matter what your idea is, no matter what impact you're trying to create in the world, no matter what problem you have in your business. There are other people out there who've already had that idea, who've already solved that problem. And if you can go and find out how they did it, then that's what you can apply to your business too. So you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Unfortunately, we do live in the information age. So a lot of the time, all the information you need to get from that business or organization is sat there on their website. So what I did was I picked out 3 different organizations that I found who are helping cause-driven businesses and entrepreneurs, or at least niche sector entrepreneurs as well, just to take a look at what they're doing. And so I found some very well-funded and very well-established organizations. And I went through each one of those. Let me just show you here. So I went through each one of those, looked at different areas, such as did an overview of what they did, looked at where their funding was coming from, looked at who their target audience is, why did they actually set this business up, looked at the support and services that they offered, and then took away the key learnings for Vegan Business Tribe. And the first one that I wanted to show you here is for an organization called Faith Driven Entrepreneur. Now, I have to start out by saying this, that I am not a person of faith, but I can see the huge good that this organization has done. And when you're looking at the why, so, why did they set up this organization and community? They identified that Christians who are in business or start business, they become better, for want of a different word, they become more efficient Christians. So a Christian who is a business owner, they are 3 times more likely to give to the community and the church than a non-business owner. What else have they put here? They are 64% established community impact programs. 25% bring others to faith on a regular basis. So they've identified that, getting Christians to be entrepreneurial is actually a really, really good idea and has a good positive impact. So that's why they set up their organization. So if I just very quickly take a look at their website here, and as I said, these people are very well funded. They've got a lot of really good resources on here. But what I've learned from them about what we can do better with Vegan Business Tribe is the idea of community. Because Faith Driven Entrepreneur, they create lots of online content just like we do at Vegan Business Tribe. They've got courses, they've got video content for people to work through. But instead of suggesting that you just go and watch that content sat in your office or maybe while you're out on a walk listening to a podcast, they strongly advocate that you do it in groups of other people who share your mission and that share your ideals. So what they prompt you to do is actually go join your local faith-driven entrepreneur group, watch all their content together, and then have a group discussion about that afterwards, about how you can apply that to your business and what you can do with that information, which is a really great idea. And what they do as well, they say if you can't find your own local community group, then they will help you set up your own. And if I just go look at the resources that they give you to do this, just click on their resources tab, they give you so much support for setting up your local group. They give you their launch guide, they give you all the templates for emails to send out, they give you slides for when you're doing presentations about your group. They'll even give you a very well produced trailer that you can put on social media or on your website to show what the group is about. They will give you all the online graphics, all the email headers, all the social graphics, even the LinkedIn group banner as well. It's really, they've gone to the full ends to give you almost this group in a box to make it as easy as possible for you to set that up. And I love this idea, because this is the idea of actually empowering your community to expand itself. Because we do get people approaching us at Vegan Business Tribe saying, we love what you do, how can we bring this to our region? And that might just be a city where there's quite a lot of vegan activity. It might be a different country and things like that. And the reason that we haven't done that as Vegan Business Tribe is me. I'm always the bottleneck. And I've always had this idea that, yes, if we're going to go and run a Vegan Business Tribe meeting in another city or another country, that I've got to be there. I've got to be the one organizing it and facilitating it. And what this shows me is, no, you can actually just skill up and give the tools to your community to allow them to expand on their own. And that's a far better way to expand your reach. So that's something that I've really taken away for Vegan Business Tribe. Just very quickly looking at 2 of the other organizations I looked at. Start Out, and this is an absolutely brilliant organization. So Start Out, they actually support LGBTQ plus entrepreneurs and businesses. But the great thing about them, if I just open up their website, is the amount of money that they've raised. So they have raised $1.27 billion worth of funding for their members and LGBTQ plus businesses and entrepreneurs. And that is absolutely astounding. And when you look at where that money comes from, they have corporate donors and sponsors that include AWS, Amazon Web Services, Coca-Cola, Comcast, Google, JP Morgan, Visa. These are really some of the largest companies in the world who are supporting this movement and supporting these entrepreneurs. And the parallels that I can pull from that between the LGBTQ plus movement and animal rights and veganism is statistically they are similar sized communities. So when you look at the amount of people who identify as LGBTQ plus, that is somewhere in the region of 5 to 7% of the population. When you look at the people who identify as vegan, depending on the country that you're looking at, that is around the same statistic between that whole 5 to 7% of the population. But what they've done is they've been very efficient in championing this cause and getting people to care about it and getting the large businesses to invest in it, even though statistically it's a very niche community. So that's something that I can take away from what we're trying to do at Vegan Business Tribe as well. And then the third organization, just very quickly, that I looked at was the Black Economic Council of Massachusetts, or BECMA, BECMA. And this is fascinating because they don't actually provide things like online content like we do. Because they're based in one specific state, everything they do is in person and hands-on, and they have been so successful at this. In the last year alone, they have distributed over $600,000 worth of grants to their membership and Black-owned businesses. They have been very good at actually engaging with the government and legislature on the state level to get resources reallocated to help improve Black businesses and Black business owners. And this is absolutely fantastic because that's something that we've never really looked at much in Vegan Business Tribe. This idea that if you do focus on one particular region, you can actually go in there and you can identify what grants are available. You can identify what local support is available and be a lot more hands-on in helping your members there. So that's something which I've really taken away from looking at BECMA as well. And again, just looking at their website to give you a little bit of their why, a little bit of their story. They've also got the Mass Black Expo coming up in Boston. If you're in that region, you want to go see it. But when you look at their story of where they came about from, it's a real powerful story that they tell. So there was a report done called The Colour of Wealth in Boston, and it showed that the median net worth of the average Black Bostonian was only $8, whereas the average median net worth of a white Bostonian was over $247,000. So there really was this massive racial wealth gap that needed addressing, and that's where they came from. And they've been exceptionally good at doing something about that and reallocating those funds and helping Black businesses succeed in that area. So that's something which is just great to learn from and great to take away from too. Okay, so just close my screen down here. So that's what I want to share with you today. And the reason that I want to share this with you is because this is a really good tool for you to do for your own business. So go out there and find the businesses or organizations who have already done what you're trying to do, who are already making the impact that you want to make in the world. The companies who have been very successful that you could look at and say, yes, I wish my business was like that. Because you can learn from those companies. You can look at where their revenue comes from. You can look at their business models. You can look at how they're communicating what they do. You can look at what packages they've put together. You can look at the different sorts of interaction they get. You can look at who they're servicing and how they actually engage that audience. And you can take that away and you can pick bits out of that and then use that in your own business. And that's going to be a lot quicker than just trying to work it all out yourself, about trying to just sit down on your own in a room and say, what am I going to do with my business? Where am I going to take this next? I found this an extraordinarily useful task to go through. One tip I will give was initially, I couldn't find these companies that I've just spoken about. I couldn't find these organizations. So what I actually used was ChatGTP. And I just told ChatGTP what we did as Vegan Business Tribe. I said, I'm looking for more example of businesses and organizations that support cause-driven entrepreneurs or niche business sectors. It came back with about 10 different examples, and within that was one or two which was kind of exactly what I was looking for. So I gave it that feedback. I said, yeah, brilliant. Options 6 and 7 are perfect. Can you find me more just like that? And it did. And that's how I got the short list of organizations to look at. So do that yourself. Identify the people who are exactly what you want to be. Go learn what they do, learn how they did it. If you can, reach out to them and actually maybe have a talk with their founders, because I think you'll find that extremely useful in helping you give some real kind of meaning and direction to what you're doing with your business too. Great. So hopefully you found that useful today. And I'll catch up with you on the next one, but I've got to get back to it. You saw how many tasks we had there that weren't quite complete. That's my task for today.
If you are a UK vegan business, wouldn't it be better to have an accountant that shares your ethics? Well, vegan accountants have got over 30 years of experience, and they're a vegan founded company. And just to add, they're also our accountants at Vegan Business Tribe, because they just get us. They understand why we do what we do, and they make sure that we're doing it in the most tax efficient way possible. Keith and his team, they've been massive supporters of our mission at Vegan Business Tribe. So if you are an established UK business with a growth mindset and you want an accountant that is going to help you grow and shares your mission as well as saves you tax, then just go to veganaccountants.co.uk to find out more. If you are looking to get your business in the news or on the radio or interviewed on TV, then no one's going to get your company noticed like Karen Ridgers and her team at Mad Promotions. And Karen, she's been at the forefront of the vegan media scene for the last 20 years. And Mad Promotions, they're also our media partners at Vegan Business Tribe. So if you've read about us in plant-based news or in Veg Economist, then that's probably because Karen got that story there. So if you are an ethical company or entrepreneur that wants more media coverage, and if you're a company that is looking to make a difference, then that's literally what Mad Promotions stands for. Karen, she's worked with Veganuary, VegFest and all the other big names. So go find out more at mad-promotions.com. I am back again at Starbucks. This is what my life has become. So I'll let you into a little bit of a secret. I actually just went in and there is somebody sat at the table that I like to work at. And it's like the workers' table because it's got the plugs and the sockets sort of built into it, and they weren't even working. They were just having a sandwich and a coffee. And so I'm kind of hoping that coming out to the car and recording this video diary, by the time I finished and go back in again, they might have vacated the table. They did kind of look like they were finishing off. So I'm hopeful for that. I've also left my little clip-on mic charging in the office. So this is just on the phone audio, which I'm guessing is probably fine, but when you're someone like me who enjoys making video and tries to make it to as higher amateur standard as I can, something like that can almost stop you making videos sometimes if you've forgotten a little bit of kit or kind of put that little barrier in place that isn't really a barrier. But hopefully you can hear me fine and the phone's picking me up. So I thought it was worth just doing a very quick kind of update on the Incubator, because I'm kind of going through the Incubator like an evening course at the moment. So I'm tending to do my day job and do all the Vegan Business Tribe stuff and the other consulting stuff that I do in the daytime. And then I'm kind of hopping in the car, kissing Lisa and Arwen good night, because I know they'll be going to bed soon, and then coming down to my local Starbucks to get 3-4 hours work done in the evening as well. So it's kind of working. It's getting it done. It's getting that balance between the day job and the Incubator, which is working out really well. What's also been nice is making these diaries I've been getting quite a lot of feedback from people as well. So I didn't think many people would be interested in this. And the reason I wanted to do it was I wanted to bring you through the incubator with me, because this is a business incubator as such. And I thought there'd be some really sort of interesting takeaways for you to get from it. And especially with it being Kickstarting for Good. And you've probably got a business which is trying to do good in the world and, actually help the vegan cause and make the world a better place. So it's been nice to get a few emails off people. So first of all, Matali Depakester, thank you so much. Really interesting exchange with Matali about how she's also going through how she can make the best impact in the world and looking at the various different vehicles for doing that and realizing that sometimes you need to start with that problem. And I think the analogy I've made to somebody else is, if you're a hammer, you think the world looks like a nail, and every problem you come up against is like a nail. But instead, if you actually start with the problem, then you realize that maybe you shouldn't be a hammer. Maybe you should be a screwdriver. Maybe you should be a wrench. Maybe you should be a tape measure, whoever it is. But yeah, the idea of just starting with the problem, it might be actually what you're doing at the moment in business. Maybe that isn't the most efficient way to solve a problem that you're looking to solve. And so, maybe it can lead you to do a little bit of just heart searching about what you're doing at the moment. So that was an interesting conversation I had with Matali. And thank you so much, Matali, for watching. You've always been an amazing supporter of Vegan Business Tribe. Also got an email from Michael Newnham as well. Michael Newnham from R&D Tax Credits. And again, just saying that he's really enjoying going through the incubator with me. And again, picking up on that idea of the LGBTQ plus movement and how that is a similar sort of size to the vegan movement, but that gets a lot more recognition. It's got a lot more credibility with businesses. Businesses and organisations are very public about their support for LGBTQ plus rights. Lots of people will change their social media banners. Lots of companies and brands get involved with Pride Week and things like that. But you don't see that sort of adoption for animal rights and veganism with companies. Now, yes, a lot of companies get involved with Veganuary perhaps, but they don't do it as loud and proud as they do with the gay and the LGBTQ plus movement. So that was an interesting thing to pick up on as well. And it's something that I've been thinking about a lot. And of course, getting backing and funding to actually try and equalise human rights, that's always going to be maybe a bigger and more supported cause than animal rights, and I think we just have to accept that and kind of think that's a great thing as well. But that whole idea that police car going past. Is it police car? Ambulance? No, police van. Between the two. Sorry, I don't know if the camera picked it up. But that whole idea of just looking at how the gay rights movement has become very credible over the last 20 years from where it might have been back in the 50s and the 60s. It kind of makes you hope that we can do the same with animal rights as well. So that was an interesting conversation to have. In terms of the incubator, we're only, I think, 3 weeks now from going out to Berlin. I've got my flights booked, the accommodations booked, my train over to the airport is booked as well. I'm actually having to do a little bit of an odd triangle because the day before the first day of the incubator, I'm actually speaking at the International Animal Rights Conference in Luxembourg, which means I'm missing the first morning of the incubator because I've got to get from Luxembourg over to Berlin in Germany. So that's going to be a little bit of a rush around. There's also the option with the incubator as well to extend it. So this is something I didn't know before I'd booked lots of things. So I already had lots of things in the calendar. But if I didn't, they give you the option to actually extend the in-person incubator by an extra week in Berlin at the ProVeg headquarters. They'll give you some desk space to stay for another week as well. So that's brilliant. And if I'd known about that, I'd have tried to make that happen. And I could have kept running Vegan Business Tribe from the offices, I'm sure, just have a good Wi-Fi connection. But unfortunately not this time. Hopefully they'll do that again for the next part of the incubator. But they also give the option to go to a few different conferences as well. So the conference on animal rights in Europe is happening the week after in Warsaw, I think that is. I think. And again, they will give a grant to go to that. So they're very happy to give an extra bit of money for you to go spend 4 days at the Animal Rights Conference. There's a couple of other conferences in Berlin that if you want to go and attend, again, they'll organise a ticket and give you a stipend as well. So that's really nice that they are encouraging us not just to come and do the incubator, but to get involved with a movement wider, and they're trying to facilitate a little bit about that as well. So hopefully when we go back for the second half of the incubator in Berlin, I'll be a bit more prepared. I'll block my diary out the week before and the week after, so if there's any similar kind of options to extend it and stay on for a week, then I'll definitely be doing that. Right, I think that's kind of up to date. I've got to go work on my problem tree today, which is an interesting exercise, and I'll do a separate video on problem trees because that's worthwhile you kind of looking at for your own business. And it's talking about when you've got a problem that you're trying to answer, what's kind of all the different fallout steps of that problem. So what does the initial problem lead to? Then what do those problems lead to? And it just helps you kind of investigate the problem from lots of different angles and see how all the jigsaw pieces fit together. So I'll do a separate video on that when I've completed my problem tree for Vegan Business Tribe as well. Over in Berlin, I know we've got a few members in Berlin. We've got Annette and Graham Henry from Henry and Henry, the vegan breathing coaches. So I'm hopeful I'm going to be able to catch up with both of them, even if it's only for half an hour over brunch somewhere. I'm hoping I'll be able to do that. I know we've got a few more members in Berlin as well. So again, if I haven't linked up with you yet, I don't know how much spare time we'll have, but if I can meet up and we can go for a coffee, I can just say thank you for being a Vegan Business Tribe member, then that'll be wonderful too. Right, do we think my table might be free? I kind of want to take you in there with me, but people will look odd at me walking in doing a video diary like I'm some sort of wannabe YouTuber, which I kind of am. I got the table. I'm not sure what episode we're on with these video diaries. I don't think we're probably not quite at 10 yet, but we're probably not far away. But what I wanted to talk about today was to come back to this idea of what problem we're trying to solve at Vegan Business Tribe, because actually leading you through the process that we're going through now to identify the problem and how we're going to solve it, that's going to be really useful for your business too, especially if you are a cause-led business. But the core of any business is solving a problem in return, usually for money. So it's worthwhile to you as well if you think maybe you don't have an activism-led business or you don't have what you'd term a vegan business yet. It's still really good to go through this idea of what problem you're trying to solve and how you're going to solve it. So the process starts out with something, and this is a new concept to me because this comes from the not-for-profit world, but it starts with something called a problem tree. So let me just share my screen with you here. Okay, so I've actually done 2 problem trees for Vegan Business Tribe because I've already been called an overachiever by some of the people on the incubator, so I need to make sure that I definitely keep that badge going. But if we look at this is problem tree number 1. And this was the big thing that hit me when I started to really look at the problem that we're trying to solve with Vegan Business Tribe. Because to me, problem tree 1 is vegans start a business to make a change for good, but they actually fail to make that change. A lot of people who start vegan businesses, they do it as their way to actually move the vegan cause forward, but many just don't achieve that level of success that they need to actually create a significant impact. And I see it very much now that our goal and mission at Vegan Business Tribe is to change that. It's to actually help you make the change in the world that you wanted to see when you first set up your vegan business. So looking at this problem wider, that this problem tree does, if I just go back to this PDF here. So at the bottom here, I've got the problem that we've set out to address. Vegans start a business as their way to move a vegan cause forwards, but many don't achieve the level of success needed to create significant impact. And there's 3 reasons that people don't do that. And I've put these here as the root problems in green. So starting with this one in the middle, it's this fear of profit-driven strategies. Now, this might sound ridiculous to people who are setting up a business, but we've seen this since day 1 of Vegan Business Tribe. Vegans don't seem to be overly comfortable making money. And especially if they're working within the vegan sector, they perhaps think it's unethical to be making money from other vegans or, working in the animal rights cause. And that's a big issue because, as I've said many times, you can do far more good in the world with a profit than you ever do with a loss. And if you start out with this fear of making money, certain things are going to happen in your business. And going back to the problem tree, this is what we've got. This is the fallout of that. People sell their services or products with little or, sometimes without any profit margin within that. So many vegan businesses give away their service or their expertise for free or for really low cost. And what happens if you do that is you don't generate enough money to scale. And either you make very little tangible impact because you just don't have the resources, or more commonly, the founders actually burn out because they can't just create that standard of living, which is sustainable and keep them running a business long term as well. So we see that a lot with vegan businesses. The second problem that we see a lot is this lack of targeted business support for companies with vegan goals. And interestingly, we were having a conversation recently in our community hub with our members about a lot of this and about why Vegan Business Tribe should stay as supporting vegans, not just companies that operate in the plant-based sector. And this was something that came up, I think, from Bethany, from Reforest Group. And she was just saying there are so many places in life as a vegan where you have to defend yourself and you can get worn out by doing that. Business support shouldn't be one of those. If you're having somebody supporting you in your business, it should be somebody who understands why you're doing what you're doing, who understands that sometimes you are going to put your ethics in front of making a profit. And they need to know that, and they need to help you build a business model around that as well. And when you don't have that, business owners, they really start to feel isolated, both personally and professionally. So that lack of targeted business support for companies with vegan goals, that is a real problem. And you might say, well, we've got that within Vegan Business Tribe. And yes, we have to an extent, but are we actually leading people through a process? Are we leading people to actually make this impact with their business? Or are we just giving them more generalized business support, but through a vegan lens? So that's something really important to realize as well, because the fallout of lack of targeted business support for companies with vegan goals is, we have people running vegan businesses who are quite inexperienced and lack business skills, and that leads to poor decision making and planning. So you might not know to research and test before committing your money and energy to a company. You might launch into an already saturated market, perhaps, or you might just spend too long on an idea that was never really going to go anywhere, that was never really a good market fit. And then that leads again to the business just not doing well or closing down. So that was the second one. And then the third root of this problem is that I think a lot of the time, if you're vegan, and you've either got a business or you want to start a business, you kind of don't see the link between your business and what you're doing and how that can actually support animal rights in a way that aligns with your business. And it's been interesting that if I say the words, your business is trying to move a vegan cause forwards, people are quite comfortable with that. And they see that as quite a nice thing and that can align with their business. If I say that your business should be doing animal rights activism, all of a sudden we're not as comfortable with that, because we view activism as, being out there marching down the street with banners or doing direct action, doing rescues, actually being an activist. And that's seen as quite a negative thing when you're doing that alongside having a business as well. And people are really, fearful of professional identity conflict or harming their business reputation. And that means that people do set up vegan businesses, or they're vegans in business, but then they lose sight of why they set up the business in the first place, because they don't ever, make that link between what they're doing and the different ways that they can support the animal rights movement that aren't that direct activism and those things that might harm their business reputation. And we've got lots of Vegan Business Tribe members who have done that really successfully as well. And again, what's the fallout of that? They make very little tangible impact. There we go. Another vegan business lost. And what these all lead to is the idea that if you don't
find a way to support the animal rights movement that aligns with your business. If you do have this fear of profit-driven strategies, you see making money as unethical, and you do have this lack of targeted business support for companies with vegan goals, all that leads to one place. It leads to vegan businesses closing down and a potential business activist loss, to the movement as well. But there's other fallouts of that as well. I mean, one really important thing, whenever you see a vegan business closing down reported in the news, the kind of narrative there is the reason that it shut down was because it was vegan, or there wasn't enough people to buy that product, or there aren't enough vegans in the world, or veganism was a fad. And we've covered this a lot in Vegan Business Tribe as well, this kind of negative media whenever a vegan business shuts down. But businesses close down all the time. McDonald's recently posted that they're struggling. They're seeing a loss in they're seeing a loss in sales, but you don't see the media reporting that it's the end of meat and that people don't want to eat convenience food anymore. No, absolutely not. They're talking about the market factors and other sort of things. But whenever a vegan company shuts down, then the public perception was the reason that it wasn't successful and it closed down was because it was vegan. And that just harms the movement massively. It really just means that less impact is being generated, less people are actually inspired to launch a vegan business themselves because they believe what they're reading. And we don't have enough role models to actually inspire others to use their business as activism as well. So that's our first problem tree for Vegan Business Tribe. And it's really interesting stuff there. Now, because I am an overachiever, I also created a second problem tree that came out of that first. And it was that last point right at the top, not enough role models to inspire others to use their business for vegan activism. And I was thinking, well, why is that? And so problem tree number 2, I started out talking about successful entrepreneurs who are also vegan don't become champions and backers of the movement. There are precious little successful vegans who are there in the media and they're being role models for us. We've got a couple like Dale Vince, people like Matthew Glover perhaps, Deborah Meaden from Dragon's Den. She's talking a lot about being plant-based. She doesn't quite use the vegan world yet, but she's obviously on that journey somewhere. But they're few and far between. And so I think one of the things we need to do at Vegan Business Tribe is we need to change that. We need to link with these successful vegan entrepreneurs, perhaps in non-vegan businesses, and get them to be champions of a movement, get them to use their influence and their skills and their knowledge to bring more visibility to the vegan cause. And so that's something that we've set out to do with this problem tree as well. So again, at the bottom, zoom out slightly. So problem number 2, many successful vegan entrepreneurs aren't engaged with the wider movement, so don't use that success to generate influence, support and funding for vegan or animal rights initiatives. Now, I just said that. But anyway, so that's problem number 2. And when we look at that, there's 2 root causes or fallouts to that problem. So number 1 is this one. Veganism is seen as a controversial, even toxic topic. Now, that is something that animal agriculture and the animal products businesses have done extraordinarily well over the last few years. They've painted veganism as a topic that you might not want to go anywhere near if you are a respectable business person, because there's controversy there. Some people find it really toxic. And that fear that it might harm someone's reputation or professional prospects if they're a champion of a movement, that's real. And I know a lot of vegans who, they're very successful in their careers, but they're not in vegan businesses. And they don't like to talk about it too much because they don't want to alienate their non-vegan customers or maybe their non-vegan staff or their business partners. So that just leads us to not having these vegan entrepreneurs actually engaging with veganism enough and engaging with the wider movement. And so what's the fallout of that? Well, businesses support other less controversial causes instead. And we see this over and over again. Businesses will support other movements, such as the gay rights movement, very happily. They will change their social media banners to represent that movement, and that's all brilliant. But will they do the same to support animal rights if they're not a vegan business? At the moment, no. So this is something that we really need to work on, because the less people who are doing that and the less companies who are doing that, that really diminishes the commercial respectability of supporting animal rights and vegan. But the second root problem that we discovered with this as well is successful entrepreneurs, they're concerned about professional identity conflict. And there might be lots of reasons behind that. So, one of the first is maybe they built up a career doing something other than food, but they think that to be a vegan entrepreneur or to represent the movement, you have to be involved with food, but their actual skill set was in a completely different industry. And if we don't have people coming from different industries and really getting involved in the movement, we're not getting those skill sets coming with them. Lots of people have built up great skill sets in other fast-growing industries such as tech, and that's not getting adopted by vegan founders because there's not enough flow of that knowledge and that skill set coming into the vegan business sector as well. Another thing they might be worried about is, they don't yet consider themselves to be worthy to represent the vegan movement. And think back to your own vegan journey. How long did you go actually telling people that you ate a plant-based diet because you weren't yet comfortable enough saying that you were vegan? I did that for quite a while, and especially because I became from being a vegetarian to being vegan for a long time. If people would ask me about my eating preferences, or what my dietary requirements were, I wouldn't say I was vegan, but I'd say that I eat a plant-based diet. And so I think a lot of people don't consider themselves to be worthy enough yet to actually carry that vegan flag and say, yes, I'm a representative of the vegan business movement. And something else that we discovered as well is this fear of being seen as hypocritical. So quite a lot of successful people who are vegan, their businesses and their success doesn't necessarily come from the vegan sector. So they may have businesses, especially if it's food business, that do make animal products as well. Perhaps, elsewhere in their background, they might have leftovers from before they were vegan. And we see a lot of this with vegans who've got animals in their lives. Maybe they've got horses that they look after and things like that as well. That's one thing we see with Deborah Meaden from Dragon's Den. She doesn't use the V word vegan a lot because she knows she's got all these hangovers from her previous life and the companies that she's invested with and is involved with. A lot of those are not vegan companies as well. So there's that fear of being seen hypocritical. If you start standing up for vegan rights and the vegan movement, people are very going to quickly find those things in your background that maybe don't align with that. And that's a real fear that people have. And so there is little motivation to take this risk of being labelled a vegan or an activist or even a hypocrite by, standing up for the vegan rights movement when you are a professional entrepreneur. But what that means is it just reduces the visibility of vegan entrepreneurs in mainstream vegan business. And less visibility means less inspiration. Other vegans won't think, oh yeah, I could use my entrepreneurship and my business skill set as a form of activism as well. But it also means that we're attracting less corporate funding and backing of vegan and animal rights causes as well. Because again, looking at the gay rights movement, and I'm really studying how they've become respectable in business because it's fantastic. It's absolutely amazing, but it's something that we can draw inspiration from as well. The companies who back the gay rights business movements, these are huge companies like Google and Amazon and Coca-Cola. Now, these companies weren't necessarily founded by gay founders. They will have gay champions within that business who are using their influence to actually try and help gay rights. And that's brilliant. And that's a model that we can take from veganism as well. There will be people, very high-ranking people in top jobs and positions at very big companies who are personally vegan themselves. And if we can connect with them, and if we can actually convince them to use that influence and to use their place within that business to move some of that corporate funding and backing towards vegan businesses, vegan initiatives, animal rights campaigns, and things like that as well, then that's going to bring a lot of funding into the movement that we currently don't have. And that's, I think, something that we can play a role with at Vegan Business Tribe as well. Okay, so I think this was quite a long one this time, but hopefully you found that useful because, again, if you're doing this for your business, this is something that you can go through as well. You can say, well, what actual problem am I trying to solve with my business? Make one of these problem trees. Go through logically, what is each step of that problem? Why is that there? How does my business fit into that? And it's just a really good ideas generation process, because reading ahead of the next chapter, again, I'm an overachiever, so I can do that. One of the next things we're going to do is we're going to change this problem tree into a solution tree. And so that's going to be really great. So I'll take each one of those problems we've got, saying, well, what's the solution to that? And that gives us the whole range of, services that we need to provide. It tells us what we need to focus on as a business as well, and just helps us build a more robust business model. But what it also does is I can take this to people who are interested in Vegan Business Tribe and backing what we're doing. I can say, look, these are the problems that we've identified, and then this is how we're going to solve those problems with your help, with your backing, and with you coming on board as stakeholders to get involved too. Right. So I think that's enough of me talking now. So sorry that I've gone on too long to this one, but hopefully you found that really interesting. And I'll catch you on the next one. And that now takes us right up to the in-person week in Berlin, which will start in the next Omnibus episode. Or if you just can't wait until then, you can watch all my video diaries for the ProVeg Kickstarting For Good Incubator as I record them on our YouTube channel, or take a look at the Vegan Business Academy over at veganbusinesstribe.com. And if you want to surround yourself with more people who are on the same mission as you are, then please do come sign up with us at Vegan Business Tribe. It is currently only £18.99 a month, and we've got members from all over the world, and you'll get access to all our content, our courses, our online meetups and events, but you'll also get access to the most amazing community of vegan business entrepreneurs that you're going to find anywhere in the world. And also, being a member is how you can help us. It's how you can support the work that we're doing to help vegan entrepreneurs skill up and scale up so that they can have a bigger impact on the world too. Okay, so watch out for our next Business Incubator Omnibus to find out what happened when I got to Berlin, and I'll see you on the next one.